Yeah, man, you here in the dark waters. I tell you, keep watching the waters, but nobody understand. Cause see, in these dark waters that you keep watching, we cover everything. Today, we about to dig into adversarial AI. Yeah, we gonna leave politics alone for a little while, cause it's obvious where we are in the world of politics. It's real plain. It's like, you can see it. Let's go into the world of AI and see what they mean by adversarial AI. Do you know what the hell they mean by adversarial AI? We just figured it out. Yeah, it ain't pretty. No, ain't nothing pretty about this.
And I realized as the angel was informing me, he says there is a danger coming where since he has failed to capture platforms, he will do two things. Number one is to use artificial intelligence in the worst possible ways. That you attack your heroes using artificial intelligence. And because you're not learned enough into it, you're not versed well in the capacities of it, you will think it is true when it's a lie. And you'll castigate a holy man for something he never did, for something, a holy woman for something she never did, because you don't know. So Africa is going to be slow at it. Some Asia might be slow. Some of the areas in Asia, even America, can be slow in understanding the depth of artificial intelligence, what is it able to do. To the point when a lie is introduced by artificial intelligence, you won't know. Photographs, videos, you'll say, oh, that's true. Yet they've been acting movies for years when it has not even matured, fighting lions that are not there. So it is all based on money now, access to money, to a point that if somebody who hates you has enough money, they can frame you using AI. The visions that are available right now, maybe you might be able to tell after a while that something is missing. But it's so dangerous when you look, even the freebies on AI are so dangerous that if they're done by somebody who has gotten a few hours into it, a few days, a few weeks, a few months into it, you'll be fooled. That's why it says the devil, if it were possible, he can fool even the very elect. The elect of God can be fooled.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. And before we can continue to dig into the realm of disgusting, aggravating, trifling lizard people, we have to go to their think tanks. This might be like, DW, you know, there's no such thing as a lizard think tank. Yes, the hell there is. Yes, the hell there is. Just like there's non-humans that's on the payroll at the Pentagon. There's non-humans that's on the payroll at DARPA. There's non-humans that are in government. I need you to consider this for a moment. They've already admitted from a Harvard study that there were extraterrestrial, crypto-terrestrial, interterrestrial entities and fallen angel entities that they acknowledge being in play in the earth. And then they said that many of them blend in and live with us. And if I'm entity from another dimension, whether it be inside of the earth or extra dimensional or interdimensional, and I want to take over, where am I going to go? I'm going to take positions in the places that dictate human discourse in the human future. And you know, the funny thing about when we talk about lizard people, people expect me to show them images of little green men walking around. No, that's not how it works. Now, you can look at some videos of some people with eyes changing to lizard-like eyes and things of that nature. But you got to understand, only an idiot amongst their clan does that kind of stuff. Like, what kind of idiot, like, okay, let me flash my eyes and show you I'm a lizard. Even if they're demon-possessed, only a dumbass demon does that. You understand? That's prideful, dumb one. Oh, the intellectuals are the ones that you have to worry about. It's the urinal. Noah Harari. It's the people at Nexus Institute, the people that say God is dead and the God of the Torah, Yahweh, is dead. And we have a new God, an AI God that we've built and constructed and man shall worship. And that's where we are right now. Let's take a listen to their conversation. And let's go down the rabbit hole with the lizard people.
Called the death of God. Which was the God of the Torah. Now, Leon, for you being a religious Jew, I know you're a religious Jew, what is the difference? What is the difference between a world in which your God of the Torah is still present and this Wagnerian world, with the gods of the era?
Well, in terms of, there's a lot to be said about this. The first thing I'd say is that in terms of the sublimity.
Now, I had to pause that for a second. So, because I don't know if you heard what the question was. And I always say this. See, wicked people know that there's God. And he says the God of the Torah versus the gods of the air. I'm going to rewind it for you. And it's the amazing thing. See, wicked people tell you what the warfare is and the battle is. Now, I've never heard Leon Westdelter speak, but I'm pretty sure he's probably going to come across as a Pharisee. Yeah, that's just what I'm being told, but that's not even important. What's important is you hear the question, and I'm going to slow it down so you can hear the question, because words are important. Slow. Now watch, listen. Start from the very beginning. And I'm going to shut up.
Leon, for you being a religious Jew, and I know you're a religious Jew, what is the difference? What is the difference between a world in which your God of the Torah is still present and this Wagnerian world with the gods of the era?
Well, in terms of, there's a lot to be said about this. The first thing I'd say is that in terms of the sublimity of the God concept, I mean, I'm one of those people who believes that whatever the word God means, it has to mean something sublime. And we can discuss what that means too. But compared to the Edda, well, I mean, compared to the highest expression of the concept of God in the monotheistic traditions, the Edda are fairy tales, and they may be of narrative interest, literary interest, human interest, psychological interest, but they are of no metaphysical or philosophical interest, at least to me. I think that there are two ways to think about the death of God.
Wow, he surprised me with
the
that.
The death of God, when people speak that way, they're either speaking about culture or about philosophy. It's true, that there came a point in Western culture when faith began to wane. And if you want to call the decline of faith the death of God, it's kind of a melodramatic and somewhat narcissistic way to put it, but fine. When I first read that famous sentence in The Gay Science of Nietzsche's about the death of God, I thought to myself, well, you lost your faith, so God dies. I mean, that seems awfully narcissistic to me. But culturally, there's no question that secularization was one of the fundamental forces that created the modern world, and that people began to lose faith, not just in God, but in the metaphysical dimension more generally. And that's still, to my mind, a huge problem. Then there is the question of the death of God philosophically, and that really is a question of what is true or false about the universe. The difference between the ancient and medieval view on the one hand and the modern view of religion on the other hand was that in the old view, religion was, before it was anything else, a series of propositions about the universe that were either true or false. There is a God, there is no God, there is providence, there is chance, the world was created, matter is eternal. They can't all be right. And that's why science was very involved in this kind of religion. The modern view of religion is that religion is not about objective truth so much as about what we call subjective truth, and it's about inner states. Ecstasy and fear and trembling and dread and sickness unto death and bliss and et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things, if one takes religion seriously, one of the first things one realizes is that the intensity of a belief and the popularity of a belief have nothing whatsoever to do with the truth of a belief. Nothing. So, for example, I recognize that people have martyred themselves to causes and given down their life, that they believed in it so intensely that they gave their life, but I happen to think that what they gave their life for is nonsense. That doesn't mean I don't respect them. because there's a great spiritual achievement in that. But philosophically speaking, the idea that God dies is completely incoherent. You know, when we were in high school, we were given Elie Wiesel's Night to read. And in Night, there is the famous sentence in which he says, I forget the words, that God died at Auschwitz. And I remember thinking even then, wait a second. If there is a God, then God didn't die at Auschwitz. He wasn't born. He doesn't die. And the only way for me to read that sentence, and maybe the only way for me to read Nietzsche's sentence, is not as an expression of philosophy, but as an expression of feeling, which is to say that they experienced such loneliness and desolation in the universe that the world became so cold and so unbearable that the only way they could formulate this feeling was to say that God is dead. But so I think, I'll stop here, but I think that generally you have to distinguish between the cultural phenomenon of the loss of faith and the actual question of what we have justified grounds in believing. They're not the same question. Even if you can prove to anyone's satisfaction that God does exist, that still may have no impact whatsoever on the progress of secularization in culture and the loss of interest in metaphysics and so on. So I think that's the distinction you have to make.
Shit, that was way better than I thought the answer was going to be. I owe that man an apology. That was way better than I thought the answer was going to be. Way, way, way better. And the fact of the matter is, he touched on something that I think is of the utmost importance. You see, it's the people who've gotten to the point to where they say, I don't believe there is a God, that God is dead, that have taken on and become vessels for various different entities. It's those same people that are leading us down this road. And it's befitting that we start there. So I'm going to retract my statement about what I said about him earlier. I'm not going to edit the video. I'm not going to do none of that. And then we're going to move forward into what is next. Watch this. And it's how we end up with men saying things such as this. And just hold on, because we're going down a rabbit hole now. Just hang in there.
Human entity. AI can create new ideas, can even write a new Bible. Throughout history, religions dreamt about having a book written by a superhuman intelligence, by a non-human entity. Every religion claims our book, all the other books of the other religions, humans wrote them. But our book, no. It came from some superhuman intelligence. In a few years, there might be religions that are actually correct. That just think about a religion whose holy book is written by an AI. That could be a reality in a few years. AI.
The problem with the reality of the AI Bible and the AI book is that the AI is programmed by man. I can prove it to you. Real simple. Go to ChatGTP and talk about, say, could you give me the trait of a spiritual city based upon the laws and rules and doctrine of Islam versus the spiritual city of Israel from the Bible based on its laws, rules, and doctrines? It'll sit there and say, wait, hold on a second. I'm only doing this because for such and such purposes. This is not an attack on any specific religion or blah, 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 blah. And it's going to say that for Islam. When it goes to talking about Israel and the Jews, it's just going to write what it wants to write. And so I can tell you now, there's going to be an AI book or an AI Bible. That AI Bible is going to target Christianity and Judaism. But there's AI preachers right now all over the internet. Nobody's figured out the fact that these AIs are preachers that work for Satan. I mean, it's crazy. Like, literally, I'm looking at them like that's AI and running through AI detecting. It's like, now that's AI, but it looks like a normal person. But let's go down this rabbit hole. Let's go look at what some of the creators of AI have to say.
Our entire world. Watch this. The reason it's not going to be the most conventional convocation speech is because there is something a little different going on. Right now, we all live in the most unusual time ever. And this is something that people might say often, but I think it's actually true this time. And the reason it's true this time is because of AI, right? Obviously. I mean, from what I hear, the AI of today has already changed what it means to be a student by a pretty considerable degree. That's what I sense, and I think it's true. But of course, the impact of AI goes beyond that. What happens to the kind of work we do? Well, it's starting to change a little bit in some unknown and unpredictable ways. And some work may feel it sooner, some work might feel it later. With today's AI, you can go on Twitter and you can look at what AI can do and what people say. And you might feel a little bit of that. You wonder, hey, which skills are useful, which ones will be less useful. So you got these questions going on. And so you can say that the current level of challenge is how will it affect work and our careers. But the real challenge with AI is that it's really unprecedented and really extreme, and it's going to be very different in the future compared to the way it is today. Like, we've all seen AI, we've all spoken to a computer, and a computer has spoken back to us, which is a new thing. Computers would not do this in the past, but now they do. So you speak to a computer, and it understands you, and it speaks back to you, and it also does it in voice, and it writes some code. It's pretty crazy. But there are so many things it cannot do as well, and it's so deficient. So you can say it still needs to catch up on a lot of things. But it's evocative. It's good enough that you can ask yourself, you could imagine, okay, fine. In some number of years, some people say it's in 3, some people say it's in 5, 10, numbers are being thrown around. It's a bit hard to predict the future. But slowly but surely, or maybe not so slowly, AI will keep getting better. And the day will come when AI will do all the things that we can do. Not just some of them, but all of them. Anything which I can learn, anything which any one of you can learn, the AI could do as well. How do we know this, by the way? How can I be so sure? How can I be so sure of that? The reason is that all of us have a brain, and the brain is a biological computer. That's why. We have a brain, the brain is a biological computer. So why can't a digital computer, a digital brain, do the same things? This is the one-sentence summary for why AI will be able to do all those things.
Absolutely, AI will be able to do all the things that humans can do in time. And the problem is that AI itself will be used to target Christians. And I dare to tell you right now, it's already been used to target Christian conservatives over the past probably 6 years. When you really think about it, the censorship programs, the tracking and tracing that was going on, the targeting. You see, we know that DARPA had AI for the longest, going back to 2008. We know that Google was working on its own AI. Google didn't just roll out its AI at full scale overnight. No. Those are things that they had already been working with and they had been using. We know that the NSA probably has been using AI for a long time. It was maybe 8 years ago that people were in an uproar about the TV show Scandal with Olivia Pope when there was this fictitious episode about the Thornburg program. Yeah, it was the Thornburg program, which is a program that used AI to track and spy on everybody. So they were signaling what they were doing then. And see, now we're into the future where it's just public. But it's so public that the founder of AI, that poor guy, he quit They called him the grandfather of AI. He quit and went on about his business because he said, man, this is way out of control. Now, if you really want to know where we are, you have to hear what he has to say. Now, there's a much better clip of him talking on CNN, on 60 Minutes, which has, fantastic interview, but 60 Minutes are assholes, pardon my language. And they want to copyright every little thing. So we come on over here to this channel, and we're going to take it from here and just listen to his opinion as to what's going to happen with AI. Now, this is 6 months ago he was warning this. So remember, 6 months ago to 12 months ago, he was saying this. And you got to understand how far we've come in 6 to 12 months. We're at a point where I can have access to AI agents now. When it first started, I had to have multiple AIs working together to have an AI agent. Now, ChatGTP, for $100 a month, you have a full-on AI agent that has access to your computer that can literally just do your work for you. It can control your computer. It can do these tasks, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I don't necessarily want that inside my computer in all my damn business. That's why I don't use it. But we're at the point of AI agents. So they're already taking over people's jobs, quote unquote, technically.
As the Godfather of AI. He's now a professor at Toronto University, and I'm delighted to say he talked to me this afternoon. I began by asking him about DeepSeek. Was this further evidence of his belief that artificial intelligence was constantly accelerating?
It shows there's still very rapid progress in making AI more efficient and in developing it further. I think the relative size or relative cost of DeepSeek relative to other things like OpenAI and Gemini has been exaggerated a bit. So their figure of 5.7 million for training it was just for the final training run. If you compare that with things from OpenAI, their final training runs were probably only $100 million or something like that. So it's not 5.7 million versus billions.
When you say that AI might take over, at the moment it is a relatively harmless or innocuous seeming a device which allows us to ask questions and get answers more quickly. How, in practical and real terms, might AI take over?
Well, people are developing AI agents that can actually do things. They can order stuff for you on the web and pay with your credit card and stuff like that. And as soon as you have agents, you get a much greater chance of them taking over. So to make an effective agent, you have to give it the ability to create sub-goals. Like if you want to get to America, your sub-goal is get to the airport, and you can focus on that. Now, if you have an AI agent that can create its own sub-goals, it'll very quickly realize a very good sub-goal is to get more control. Because if you get more control, you're better at achieving all those goals people have set you. And so it's fairly clear they'll try and get more control. And that's not good.
You say they try to get more control as if they are already thinking devices, as if they think in a way analogous to the way we think. Is that really what you believe?
Yes. The best model we have of how we think is these things. There was an old model for a long time in AI where the idea was that thought was applying rules to symbolic expressions in your head. And most people in AI thought it has to be like that. That's the only way it could work. There were a few crazy people who said, no, it's a big neural network, and it works by all these neurons interacting. It turns out that's been much better at doing reasoning than anything these symbolic AI people could produce. And now it's doing reasoning using neural networks.
Okay, and of course you are one of the crazy people proved right. And yet, you've taken me to the airport, you've given it agency up to a point, and you've said that it wants to control a little bit more power, take power from me, and presumably it will be persuasive in that. But I still don't understand how it's going to take over from me or take over from us.
If there's ever evolutionary competition between superintelligences, imagine that they're much cleverer than us, like an adult versus a 3-year-old. And suppose the 3-year-olds were in charge, and you got fed up with that, and you decided you could just make things more efficient if you took over. It wouldn't be very difficult for you to persuade a bunch of 3-year-olds to cede power to you. You just tell them you get free candy for a week, and there you be.
So they would, I'm talking about they as if they're in some kind of alien intelligence, but AI would persuade us to give it more and more power, over our bank accounts, over our military systems, over our economies. Is that what you fear?
That could well happen, yes. And they are alien intelligences.
Gosh, so you've got these alien intelligences working their way into our economy and the way we think, and as I say, our military systems. But why and at what point would they actually want to replace us? Surely they are, in the end, very, very clever tools for us. They're they do ultimately what we want them to do. If we want them to go to war with Russia or whatever, that's what they will do.
Okay, that's what we would like. We would like them to be just tools that do what we want, even when they're cleverer than us. But the first thing to ask is, how many examples do you know of more intelligent things being controlled by much less intelligent things? There are examples, of course, in human societies of stupid people controlling intelligent people, but that's just a small difference in intelligence. With big differences in intelligence, there aren't any examples. The only one I can think of is a mother and baby, and evolution put a lot of work into allowing the baby to control the mother. So as soon as you get evolution happening between superintelligences, suppose there's several different superintelligences, and they all realize that the more data centers they control, the smarter they'll get, because the more data they can process. Suppose one of them just has a slight desire to have more copies of itself. You can see what's going to happen next. They're going to end up competing, and we're going to end up with superintelligences with all the nasty properties that people have that depended on us having evolved from small bands of warring chimpanzees, or our common ancestors with chimpanzees. And that leads to intense loyalty within the group, desires for strong leaders, willingness to do in people outside the group. And if you get evolution between superintelligences, you'll get all those things.
Through the development of computers and AI, people have talked about consciousness. Do you think that the consciousness has perhaps already arrived inside AI?
Yes, I do. So let me give you a little test. Suppose I take one neuron in your brain, one brain cell, and I replace it by a little piece of nanotechnology that behaves exactly the same way. So it's getting pings coming in from other neurons, and it's responding to those by sending out pings, and it responds in exactly the same way as the brain cell responded. I just replaced one brain cell. Are you still conscious? I think you say you were.
Absolutely, yes. I don't suppose I'd notice.
And I think you can see where this argument's going.
I can, yes. I absolutely can. So when you talk, they want to do this or they want to do that, there is a real they there, as it were.
There might well be, yes. So there's all sorts of things we have only the dimmest understanding of at present about the nature of people and what it means to be a being and what it...
Now, remember, this interview was done 6 months ago, 1.6 million views 6 months ago. And this is 6 months ago, him warning that these things are sentient beings with their own ability to think. Now we get to the point where we start talking about AI, and there's these data center wars going on. Exactly what he predicted is happening. The best way to get to it is go to Alex, because Alex has been talking about it. I don't really want to go through and go find every data center, but I'll just bring this to your recollection. Recall this. At the beginning of last year, 2024, Bill Gates was talking about on his farmland, he was making many nuclear reactors to power data centers. And I need you to understand, in the movie Matrix, there was this need, such a high need for power to power their data centers in their technology that humans were turned into batteries. Remember, that's what Matrix is about. That's when Neo came out of the Matrix. He's like, bleh. Humans were being used as batteries. And that's when you have an otherworld intelligence take over and completely control humanity, which is where we're headed. It's directly where we're headed. And these beings are possessed by fallen angels, principalities, powers, thrones. You name it, they're there. It's inside of it. But hold on. Let me go get you some more. Perfect. Terminator stuff. Found it real quick. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to keep on using this music, but this is what happened during the Israeli-Gaza war. And you got to remember, every war is an opportunity for militaries to test their technology. I'm sorry. You have to come to the hard realization that war is an opportunity for them to test their technology. Right now, the number one military in the world with experience with drones in real-time warfare is Russia and the Ukraine. They have the most drone operation experience in drone warfare, Russia and the Ukraine, which is partly why I believe that Vladimir Putin is like, nah, I ain't ready to end the war yet because I'm continuing to test my technology and kill these people. That's what happens in war. If you ever been around guys who like went to World War, I've never been to war, but I trained with quite a few guys who've been there. And I'd be like, hey man, how much new technology? I mean, we use new crap all the time. But what do you think about this? I can't talk about some of the things, but the majority of the stuff is good. There's some things that are crappy that'll get you killed. And I questioned them about AI. Well, has there ever been any AI used? Well, we were using it, but we didn't call it AI. We didn't understand it was AI until much later. Been using it for a while. Been using it for a while. But listen to this.
In 2021, the commander of Israeli intelligence published a book on designing a special machine that would resolve what he described as a human bottleneck for locating and approving targets in war. A recent investigation by Plus 972 magazine and Local Call reveals that the Israeli army has developed an artificial intelligence-based program known as Lavender, which does exactly that. According to 6 Israeli intelligence officers with first-hand experience, the Lavender AI machine determined who to kill and was obeyed with military discipline. During the first weeks of the war, the Lavender system designated about 37,000 Palestinians as targets and directed airstrikes on their homes. Despite knowing that the system makes errors about 10% of the time, there was no requirement to check the machine's data. The Israeli army systematically attacked the targeted individuals at night, in their homes, while their whole family was present. An automated system known as Where's Daddy was used to track the targeted individuals and carry out bombings when they entered their families' residences. The obvious result was that thousands of women and children were wiped out by Israeli airstrikes. According to these Israeli intelligence officers, the IDF bombed them in homes as a first option, and on several occasions, entire families were murdered when the actual target was not inside. In one instance, 4 buildings were destroyed along with everyone inside because a single target was in one of them. When it came to targets marked as low level by the AI Lavender system, cheaper bombs were used, which destroyed entire buildings, killing mostly civilians and entire families. This was done because the IDF did not want to waste expensive bombs on who they deemed as unimportant people. It was decided that for every low-level Hamas operative that Lavender marked, it was permissible to kill up to 15 or 20 civilians. And if the target was a senior Hamas official, more than 100 civilians was acceptable. Most of these AI targets were never tracked before the war. The Lavender software analyzed information collected on the 2.3 million residents of the Gaza Strip through a system of mass surveillance, assessed the likelihood of each person being a militant, and gave a rating from 1 to 100. If the rating was high enough, then they were killed along with their entire family. Lavender flagged individuals who had patterns similar to Hamas, including police, civil defense, relatives, and residents who had similar names and nicknames. This sort of tracking system has existed in the U.S. for years.
What I will be providing you and the fine gentleman of the Secret Service is a list of every threat made about the president since February 3rd, and a profile of every threat maker.
And these are, like, existing targets?
Exhibit A. Oakland resident Justin Pinsky posted on a message board. Romania has a storied history of executing their leaders. Couldn't they do us a solid and take out Bush?
How is this all possible?
Keyword selectors. Attack, take out Bush. So think of it as a Google search, except instead of searching only what people make public, we're also looking at everything they don't. So emails, chats, SMS, whatever.
Yeah, but which people?
The whole kingdom, Snow White.
And while many people claim that Israel controls the U.S., Joe Biden said that Israel serves U.S. interests.
There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interests in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
I'm not sure how much of that I'm be able to use because of the music, but it makes the point. It makes the point. The AI control grid will soon be turned against humanity. Right now, it's being tested out on people that we all would kind of like can be shifted to agree with that, you know, they bombed some Israelis and so we need to kill the people in Gaza because they're terrorists. But what's even more dangerous and more frightening to me is this. This grid, this control grid, this technology, other nations have the same thing. And as we see Islam rising to power in other nations like Sadiq Khan in London and Zoran Mandami and wherever he is, could you imagine if the wrong person got into power in the wrong major Western nation, what they would do with this? You understand what I'm saying? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back on the next video. I got to go deal with some stuff. Hit the like button for me, please.